All right, folks, part two. This is part two for the original 13 Colonies project. In this section, I'm going to go over the grading rubric, which tells you exactly what you're going to be graded upon. You're going to see that this project is worth 100 points, so basically worth the same as what a test would be worth. So I'm going to go down through each of these categories and explain. Some of these categories are extremely easy. There should be no points missed in certain categories on here. And then some of them are separator categories, so to speak, where it's really going to separate the A projects from the B projects from the C projects and so on. So the first category here you see is the rough sketch. The rough sketch category is worth 8 points. This is a piece of cake, 8 points. And you see the two questions there. As you go through and you get ready to hand in your project, or as you're working on your project, please refer back to this rubric multiple times. When a rubric is given to a student from a teacher, the teacher is basically saying, in this instance, I'm saying, this is what you're going to be graded upon. Please look at the rubric before you hand it in, and please use these little questions here to answer them. If you can answer them as a yes for sure, then obviously you know you're on the right path. If the answer to any of these questions would be a no, then you know that you're giving away easy points that shouldn't be given away. First section is the rough sketch category, again, worth 8 points, and there's two questions there for you. One was the rough sketch handed in, and two was the rough sketch initialed and approved by me. Now again, remember this project is due next Thursday. So it's next Thursday, September the 21st. Now the rough sketch, if you do things the way that they're highly recommended by me, your rough sketch will be initialed and approved by me by the end of this Thursday, September the 14th, by the time you leave school on Thursday, September the 14th. Now you're going to have a good half a class on Wednesday to start working on the rough sketch, and you will have the entire time in class on Thursday. You've got a day and a half in class. Use your time wisely to be able to get that thing prepared so that you can come to me and show me your rough sketch and explain your symbols. Again, these symbols on your rough sketch do not need to be anything great. We're talking hand-drawn pencil sketches, just real quick, enough to give me an idea of what you're putting on there. I'm not looking for, 5-minute, extremely detailed symbol for each colony. So those 8 points, piece of cake. Was the rough sketch handed in on Thursday, September 21st? That's half your points. And the other half of those points come from, was the rough sketch initialed and approved by me? 8 out of 8, piece of cake, no problem at all. Next 13 points come from the colony names. Did you include the colony name in each of the 13 separate sections, and are they spelled correctly? If you go back to part one of this, I talked about how the colony names are on the front side of this sheet, and they are all spelled correctly. Go copy them letter for letter off the front page of this sheet, and please spell them correctly. Obviously, you don't want to leave them off the sheet because you lose the point for each colony name that's missing, but you lose a point if it's spelled incorrectly. And at this point, there's no reason why a colony name should be spelled miscorrectly when you just flip this sheet over and see exactly how they should be spelled. So at this point, you should be like, sweet, that's an easy 21 out of 21, on my way to my A, my B, whatever you're shooting for. The next 13 points come from the colony dates. Now with colony dates, I'm looking for the years. Now remember, back when in the first part of the audio, I talked about including the dates properly. They are on page 142. Now remember, you don't have a maroon book, but they're on page 142 in the packet that you're going to get tomorrow in class that has all of the sections, chapters 1 through 5. Within that packet is page 142, and it has each of the years that each of these colonies were founded. At this point, every single person, without question, should be looking at a 34 out of 34 when I get to this point of grading your project. 8 for the rough sketch, 13 for the colony names, and 13 for the colony dates, obviously the years. Again, listed on page 142. Now, the next section we get into, again, this is really the separator. This is when we get into the representation and creativity of colonies, and it's worth 39 points. Did you represent the history, geography, etc. of each of the 13 colonies, and were your ideas creative and different from the customary? Again, were they outside of the norm? Were they outside of the box? Do you have symbols that other people in the class are not going to have? Again, I use the ball and the chain for Georgia in the first part of this video and on the other side of this sheet. Don't use the ball and chain for Georgia. And again, As I said in part one, sometimes your best ideas and symbols are not going to be the first one that pop into your head. You have to think differently. If you have the same symbol that 23 other students are using for the state, for the colony of Pennsylvania, there's not a whole lot of creativity to that. Think outside the box. You're going to see some examples that I use in class that are just really creative. Again, put your mind to the test. Do more than you think you're capable of, but don't just go with it. If for example, if a country or if a colony was founded for religious freedom, a cross is about the most common possible symbol that would be used. Think differently. Think differently. But each time I look at your symbol, when I go through each of your 13 symbols, each symbol is going to receive either a plus, which would be a 3 point, like wow, that's a really outside the box creative symbol, love it. Something that's going to make me be like, oh wow, I've never thought of that myself. It's going to receive a 2. A 2 is basically like a, hey, you know what, it's okay. Seen a bunch of these, kind of normal, not a whole lot of creativity to that. Or it's going to receive a minus, which would be a 1, which means it has nothing to do with the colony. The only way your symbol has nothing to do with the colony is if you change what I've approved from your rough sketch, or if you never have your rough sketch approved by me and you choose something. So for example, if you would choose for Georgia, and let's say you would choose a dinosaur, okay? Georgia and the founding of Georgia has nothing to do with dinosaurs. So obviously that would be a 1. There's no correlation there. You're shooting for all threes with all of your symbols. But again, I urge you, creative minds, think outside the box, be different. And if you come up with something really amazing, this is a time to be selfish. Don't share it with anybody. If you come up with one and you come show me and I'm like, oh, wow, man, that's awesome. I've never thought of that one before. I don't know that anybody doing this project's ever thought of that one before. Don't go share it with your lunch table. Okay? Keep it to yourself. So that's where those 39 points come from. And again, that's really a game changer right there. That's really what separates the A's from the B's. Neatness and best effort shown is the next 15 points. Does your work demonstrate that you have put time and effort into it? Does your final drawing include color, minimal white? Please stay away from white. Leaving your final paper white shows no effort. Okay, I would color in every part of your final copy 8.5 by 14 sheet if I were you. Okay, no offense, leaving it white saying there's a snowstorm going on doesn't make a whole lot of sense, just shows a lack of effort. I would color everything that I can because the more parts of your final paper that are colored, the more effort I know that you've put into it. Okay, and then the last part we get to the written copy, and the written copy is going to be worth 12 points. Now, what that is it says, did you use correct punctuation, grammar, capitalization, and spelling? And then is your written copy double spaced? Double spaced meaning that if you handwrite it, you write on the first line, you skip the second line. You continue writing on the third line, you skip the fourth line. You continue writing on the fifth line, and so on and so forth. Okay. If it's typed, you need to double space it. Double spacing allows me room for proofreading and things like that, whether it be written or typed. But please make sure that you do that. Lastly, did you indent? This is basically going to be a 1 paragraph written copy where you've got 13 sentences rolling together. There's no need for 13 separate paragraphs because you're writing one sentence for each symbol that you've chosen. For example, the writing would be, this is all that it is. For example, I chose the ball and chain symbol to represent Florida to show that Georgia was started to give London's poor people a second chance. So basically you're saying, I chose this to represent said colony to show that said colony was started to give whatever it was, to represent religious freedom, whatever it may be. But that's how the project is going to break down. It's a total of 100 points. And obviously, this is a project where I will say it will be fairly difficult to get an A. Lackluster effort isn't going to get you there. Lack of creativity isn't going to get you there. But this is something where, again, you put a lot of time and effort, neatness, best effort shown, And again, please don't think that this project has anything to do with your artistic ability. It has to do with neatness and best effort. Please don't say, we don't understand, Mr. Schaefer, I'm not very creative. You just have to think differently, okay? Think differently. And again, just think outside the box with your symbols. So we will start this project on Wednesday in class. That's why it was your homework for tonight. So when you come in tomorrow, we'll go over it a little bit. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you some examples. And then from there, we're going to kind of get rolling with it. Again, project will be due Thursday, September 21st when you come to class. And again, by the end of the day on Thursday, September 14th, you should really make sure that you've taken care of what you need to take care of, and you have your rough sketch initialed and approved by me. So you can see there again, 100 points. Late penalties will apply, which we'll discuss in class, but I don't expect that to happen to anybody because we are all going to make sure that we are not procrastinating. We're working ahead of time. And I will tell you, this is not a project that takes 8 days to do. It's not. You have 8 days to do it, but it's not a project that will take 8 days to do. Realistically, it's something that can be hammered out in 3 and 4 days. That's pretty much it. You've got part 1 and part 2, and I will see you guys in class tomorrow.